Well, hello everybody and welcome. My guest today is Tamlyn Redmond. Tamlyn is based in South Africa and is the business owner of a 50 employee business based in they have offices in Cape Town, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and remote teams in the UK and Ireland. So stretching across all of Africa and Europe. So Tamlyn, thank you so much for joining us today, taking time out of your day.
Thanks, Katie. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you. So, I would love for you to let's go back to almost a year ago when you first came into the world with Centered Excellence. And would you mind telling the listeners a little bit about what was happening for you back then in your business and what you were experiencing?
Sure. So it was a year ago, February 2023, and I was really in a not a great space when it came to recruitment. I was considering a change of industry. I was burnt out. I wasn't sure if I'd made the right decision. Just a bit of a back detail on me. I'm a mom of three, so I've got a 4-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 10-year-old. So trying to juggle work,
Wow.
mom. There wasn't enough hours in the day. In terms of business, I was really hands-on in the business. I had my own recruitment desk that was running. So I was targeted as a consultant to work as a consultant, and a lot of pressure came with having to still perform as a consultant,
Mm.
leaving me with very little time to actually work strategically on the business. I was very involved in the business. And one of my really big fears was what happens if I was taken out of the business? How would my
Mm.
business carry on? And with me burning out, there was a high likeliness of. Fast forward a few weeks, I was diagnosed with cancer, and a diagnosis that had kind of started with you'll be out of the business for 2 weeks, turned into being out of the business for 6 months with chemo and radiation. And through this, my business not only survived, it flourished. I was taken out of the business. I followed all of the steps on the Rockit training, and I'm in a much better space and place at the moment. I took my first holiday off in 14 years and took the kids to Mozambique in December, which is almost unheard of. So yeah, so really much better place and space.
Yeah, wow, that is so much to happen in a year, and I'm very glad to say that your health is in a much better position, which is first of all wonderful to hear. Let's go back to that because I think so many can lean into your story around being that mum, especially a mum of three, very busy. You're working, like you say, you're in the business, you're a biller in the business, you want to grow the business, but there's all these sort of feeling like there's these constraints, these blocks as to how specifically am I going to do that when if I'm the top biller and you take that money away, what's going to happen to the business? So talk to us a bit about, first of all, how what enabled you, what was the first step that you took to be able to first of all even be able to, if you like, look down from that bird's eye view on the business and see what was happening?
Okay, so first step was definitely signing up for Rocket. It was the realization that in my current state, couldn't see a way out, and I needed
Mm.
help and just guidance and some structure as to what a different way of working was. We get so caught up in
Mm.
working the same model that sometimes we can't see out beyond that model. So I think that was the first step for me, was to really go, this isn't working and it's not serving me. And here's an industry that I love and I'm passionate about, and I wake up every morning not wanting to be in it anymore. So something needed to change. So that was the first step. And then, I think moving on, it was really just the support and guidance from the team in this is how we can do it, and a multiple step approach as opposed to here's one thing, do this. It was really what resonates best with me and my business, and giving me multiple ways to make changes.
And so let's talk about that in terms of those multiple approaches. What do you mean by that when you say a multiple approach?
Okay, so one of the very first changes that we did was establish that we were working a really old model.
Yeah,
We were stuck in that 360 model. So the first
yeah,
change
lovely.
really came about, okay, we're going to change to more of a Saturn Thor model. We're going to look at what works best in each different branch. It was finding one of my key drivers as well was the fact that I had such high staff turnover. So not only was I working in the business, I was constantly having to train new people up in the business. And we used to joke with people when we interviewed and say, you're either going to love it or hate it. But really what it was is we were asking one person to do multiple roles in a business that they weren't predisposed to enjoy. So we were setting them up for failure. So really the next step was to look at who are the people that we have in our business, who are the most successful people, and split it out into roles and really work out what were we looking for when we do look for staff. When we bring someone in, where are they going to fit within the business?
Yeah, great. Right people in the right jobs.
Another big thing for us was to start turning away work, which sounds crazy, but we kind of drilled down and we've actually got niche desks within our business. We are a generalist agency, but we've got success areas where we far outweigh other industries. So we kind of went, let's not take on the industries that we're not successful at, and let's focus and hone in on those industries that we are and specialize desk by desk. So that was another big change for us.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is such a critical thing because, we talk about it in terms of the 80-20 rule. And I imagine part of what we do there with you is to lift the bonnet and to say, what's the 20% that's giving us 80% of our results, like you're saying. To say yes to something, we actually have to be able to say no to something else. Otherwise, you haven't got the time available. And so you're right, it's getting really clear on what are those roles then that give us the highest return, and let's hone in on those and do more of those. But by saying no to the things that give us a low return or low fees, or we haven't got the same conversion with, it actually frees up our time to be able to get more of the things that we want more of. Because whilst we can create more money in our business, we can't actually create more time. Nobody has that ability. So we have to look at where we can spend that time and really hone in on that. So like you're saying, becoming that specialist, we talk about the surgeon versus, the doctor, and the differences there, really honing in, and the 360 model. Brilliant. So looking at where right people in the right roles, what's the model that we're working to so that people are working in flow, they're working in their super strengths, as we call it, and that way you're getting absolute maximum out of people. Because where you were talking about that 360, I mean, I had this very, very much in my business before we also remodeled like you to a 240 model. And that was where we use the analogy of the football team where you've got Ronaldo and you've got your A-star player on the pitch, and you're saying, okay, I want you to go and play up front for a third of the match, then come midfield for the third of the match. And then you're going to go and get in goal, and you're going to stop the goals from happening. Well, let's imagine, how does somebody feel when they're in and out of those zones all the time? One, you're going to be very, very tired. But secondly, as you rightly said, you're not necessarily playing in the best position for you. And so actually your results don't look like you're doing a very good job. But the reality is you've been put in the wrong position on the pitch. So brilliant. Okay. And what else? So 360, saying no and getting really clear on your specialism. What else made a big change for you?
We increased our fees. So our average billing, billing went from 38,000 to 78,000. So a really big jump there in what our average billing was. Yeah, that's.
How did you do that?
Again, by saying no and really working through what was a gold client to us, and doing a lot of client reviews that go, and seeing if there was clients that were still in that silver range, how could we convert those to gold, but with a new change in fees. We also did a really nice infographic for our clients of, this is what you pay for at that reduced rate. Which part of my service would you not like to receive? We mapped out that we've got a 32-step process to recruiting. So really a justification of, these are our fees. And if you don't want to pay those fees, that's okay. but then you can't expect a gold service from us. And I actually only want to offer a gold service to my clients. So those are the clients that I'm going to choose to work with. If you don't find that what you're looking for in that range, come back to me, but these are the fees.
Lovely. So increasing your fees, I mean, wow, that's spectacular, from 38,000 to 72,000, first of all. So congratulations for doing that. And as you say, that process starts, doesn't it, with as we were just talking about, what is a gold job, first of all, for you? And how did you work out what was a gold job, like what you were going to say yes to and what you were going to say no to? How did you work out, and how did you cascade that to the teams so that they knew what a gold job was?
So I think, this was really hands-on with Jane and my coach, and the numbers and figure side doesn't come naturally to me. I thrive and love sales and business development. So really having that support of going, these are what we're measuring for the next 3 months, what we're measuring for the next 6 months, and just working with the data that we had, making it understandable for me, making it translatable for the rest of my team. We've started off this year on a fantastic note with knowing exactly what our metrics are for our recipe for success. So right down to the number of CVs we need to send per week, the number of jobs we need to bring in. So yeah, so it was the help on that data side for me.
Brilliant. And, again, I think many of us, particularly entrepreneurs, can relate to that, like areas of strength around business development or sales, or should I say, not numbers or figures or data
Yes.
necessarily being our forte. And that's because, as you say, we have super strengths in other areas. And that means that sometimes we don't enjoy the reporting or the attention to detail on thing, or even sometimes, the processes that are required, the systems that are required to make your business really flow and to systemize your business so others follow your magic recipe. We have to be able to look at those numbers and those datas, because they're our GPS to what that recipe is, and how we can multiply that great result 10 times over. So getting clear on your numbers, whilst it might not be something that we enjoy, it is an important part, isn't it, in the process of, getting your business to become that replicatable and predictable machine in play, and having somebody to help you to do that. So
Yes. And having the ability to then manage remotely. So, not to have to be in the office, not to be tied to your desk, not to be micromanaging either. You're letting the accountability go to the people who need to have it, and there's reports, and it freed up so much time for me. I actually have so much more time to work on the business now.
This is brilliant. Okay. And so we got clear on what we're saying yes to. We got clear on the roles that we're converting more of. We then created a criteria or a recipe for those gold jobs that meant the rest of our team knew what they would say yes to and what they would say no to. I call it your quality control, which is then where a job comes in, your team know, yes, this is what a gold job is, because it's almost like a checklist. I can check it off to say, it's in our niche, we've got a pool of candidates, it's at the right salary level, it's at the right fee level, the client works with us in a particular way. So that enables your team then, as a role comes in, they know what they can say yes to and what they can say no to. Then you talked about, again, creating this, you mentioned a 32-step process, but this is mapping your service offering and then putting that into a system that then means, again, you can be very clear on how you demonstrate to a client what it is that you do that's different, what are your differentiators. But also that goes back to, like you're saying, it's your recipe for every time we follow this system, we get a conversion and we get the right fee.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's it's like, I don't know, this is a bad analogy, but forgive me because you're not McDonald's. But let's say it came into my head, or let's say you're in a restaurant and your best offering is your fillet steak. It's like, okay, and we know what the process is for creating this
Yes.
amazing experience for our clients. And once we've got that mapped into a system, and then everyone knows what their part is that they play in that system, you can literally be rolling those out. Like everyone could come in and they could ask for a fillet steak, and you're like, yes, we've got the perfect recipe. Here we go, guys. We can roll that out. And I know people are going to want to know, how did you do that though? What were some of the steps that you took in that, Tamlyn, to create that magic recipe? Or what is it that other people would need to look at in their business?
So I think it was becoming clear on first off who I had in my business in terms of my workforce. So
Right.
to be able to break down that 32-step process, I needed to actually have a role profile per person of what they were doing, and then combine the two. So what was coming from my client delivery team, what was coming from my candidate delivery team, what steps was everyone taking, so that we could put together this one big recipe. Also, just to explain to our clients that because we changed from a 360 model, not all of these 32 steps were potentially happening previously in a 360 model. We actually, as much as we want to believe we're giving a gold service, we weren't. There were steps that were missed because it was just too much to ask from one person. So now we've got multiple people involved in the process, hence it's a more comprehensive gold service.
Brilliant. So what you're talking about there is creating that really remarkable service for your clients and your candidates, because you're able to use skills and make sure that every aspect of that service is covered, rather than, our example of Ronaldo, where he might be playing really well up front, but actually towards other parts of our service, we're falling down because we're actually skipping it, or we haven't got somebody doing that. Okay, love that. Absolutely love that.
And if I can just add that, by doing this as well, we've given our staff very clear direction as well. So when we sit down and work out our 90-day goal for the team, they independently work out their 90-day goals as to what they want to achieve. What do they want to be billing? One of the worst things of working recruitment is inconsistent billing. We never know whether we're going to be rich or poor in 3 months' time in an old 360 model. So the great success for me is also seeing that in the last year, especially, we did the 90 days ago and just had this meeting last week, and every single one of the members in my team had met their 90-day goal in that time, from finances to personal goals. So it was really just great to see that it cascaded down. It's not just success sitting with me, it's sitting with my team. I've got a happy, motivated, engaged team, not people coming in going, oh my gosh, where am I going to find my money? How am I even going to begin this? Everyone's got such crystal clear vision on what they need to do to be successful in their roles.
Wonderful. And that just breeds great retention. You hire better people. Because I know you mentioned to me, forgive me, I can't recall if we mentioned this yet here live, but I know that you mentioned to me that staff retention for you before you joined the program was a real issue.
Yeah. I mean, we mentioned that a bit earlier live, and it was the constant training is also it got draining, and that's in a time when I was still running my own desk. So I was often going home in the evenings, doing my recruitment work at home, coming in, training people, going home. If I say that our average tenure was 4 months, that's literally what it was at one stage. Guys we were putting them onto performance plans sort of at 2 months, and that's something else I learned from Rockit, was really the hire slow, fire fast.
Yes, that's it. Yes, forgive me. My mind when we talk about things. Okay, so, and what you're talking about there, this is also really, really important, I think, for everybody. We can all relate into this, is having that vision, isn't it? what you're talking about here is not just a vision for yourself and your business partner, but this is actually about every single person in your team having their own vision that collectively takes you all on that journey. And that's when you really get people bought in, isn't it? That's when people go the extra
Yeah,
mile. They feel part of something, they understand their values, they understand what position they're playing in that, and they have their own motivation and own driver, but that driver is a part of the bigger vision. Because, and I can't recall who said this, but it's a statement by somebody famous, I'm sure, which is, a vision is nothing, is merely a dream without implementation and a plan. And so
yeah,
what you're talking about there is individual plans that everybody can own, but those individual plans build up to overall meet the collective of the goals of the business.
exactly.
Super powerful, Tamlyn. So tell us overall, what's changed in the last year for you then? I mean, obviously you've talked about all these parts, but are there any stats or anything else that you can share with people in terms of those big, shifts that have happened over that year?
Definitely. So we trialed this in our South African branch. So not only did we see a huge increase in the billing average, but we saw a growth of 45% this year in our South African branch, with half the size team that we'd had the year before. So really great results from fewer, more engaged people. Um, it, like I said, I was out of the branch for potentially 6 months. This is on a personal side, on the statistic side, have been to gym every day for the entire year.
Love it.
Well, the last 6 months of the year, because I've actually for the first time had the time where I'm able to come in a little bit later and get that done. Yeah, I think, and in terms of, so just the number of roles that we've taken on, we've dramatically reduced the number of roles we've taken on. Our candidate attraction team at the beginning of the year were targeted on speaking to 30 people a day, which is just a crazy amount. Now they're speaking to 8 people a day. So really a huge reduction in the number of the volume of work, but our conversion rates have gone up. We are really specific about what we need to be doing.
Brilliant, brilliant. That's a lovely philosophy. We call it the less is better, and really that is. It's about working smarter, isn't it? Not harder.
Yes.
And you
Yes.
touched on something there, which I think is so important to most of us, which is about time. It's yes, it's money, financial freedom, what most of us crave as much as that is the time, isn't it? Time with our
Yeah.
family, time. So we're not feeling like we're just held ransom to this wonderful business that we created, but then it becomes this sort of
Yeah.
noose around our necks.
Yeah. Being able to go home and engage with my children, because I'm just not so stressed and in such a spin about what I'm doing at work. Like I said, this December was the first holiday that I've taken in 14 years. If we went to Mozambique on a beach holiday, where I didn't open my laptop. I did not once check an email. I managed completely remotely. The only thing that I had a look at was the figures report to make sure that my branches were on target for success, which they all managed to do completely without me.
Brilliant. Well, hats off to you. That's fantastic. So let me just recap for everybody on what you've talked about there. So the first thing you said, step one, was really, I'm going to use your language, waking up. It's like, okay, I know I need help here. I need to do something different. Definition of insanity. Keep doing what we're doing. We're going to
Yes.
get the same result. So step two, you said, okay, I need the support. I need the guidance. I need somebody else with that expertise to help me. Three, you then started looking at the model. That was about multiple approaches, but part of that was, okay, we need to work a different model here. We've got high staff turnover. We're not able to produce the same levels. We're working way, way harder, but not getting the same return. So that was looking at 360. We say rest in peace, and looking at re-establishing a different model in your business. Then you said the next step was saying no. Really important. To say yes, we have to be able to say no to certain things. And that's
And
where
if I
you
can just add, that's probably the toughest one for us was
yeah.
the to learn to say no, because we are so inbred. The customer service delivery side of us is we want to take everything on.
Right.
Even I think maybe from an entrepreneurial side, everything bright and flashy looks great. So really to turn work away was a big challenge.
Brilliant, brilliant. And on that, actually, while we're talking about it, because I would totally agree with you. I know a lot of people when they, start working with us and even when we do the numbers and we show them, hey, look, here, you could be working less and getting more. And for the business owners, but what was the process you went through with the team to get them to see that? How did you get them on board?
So it was very much on the reporting side. We basically at one stage our conversion rate was I think 22%. So we just went back to them and said 78% of the work that you're doing is for free. How does that make you feel?
Right.
You know, how can we change this? Here's the methods that we can change this. You decide. We really put it in their hands. We can not change the model, but this is a model of stress, and like I said, we're working for free, or we can start making some changes. We can start saying no. The great thing that I always quote with them is, the bronze job is equivalent to having no job. You're better off having no job than working on something that's bronze, because at least you're then hungry to go out and find something that's going to make you money.
That's right. That's absolutely right. Exactly. So take that team on the journey as you went
Yes.
on that journey, and stats and data and evidence. And
Yes.
importantly, as you've rightly said, it was, when you can show them here's the other way that we can do it so that they can actually see what that can be. Of course, yeah, it helps people to really lean in. Then you talked about your fees. So again, getting clear on who you want to say yes to, who you want to say no to, and knowing the value
Yeah.
of what you're worth, and feeling confident to stand by that, because this goes back to creating more time for yourself by saying no
Yeah.
to those things that aren't. And then you can see, actually, we have got plenty of time to go and get other opportunities. It's just that all the time our time's being sucked up. It doesn't feel like that's the case. And then finally, you talked about, out of that, getting clear on that recipe, getting clear on what that process is, and then really getting that dialed in with the team to make that happen. Amazing.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, Tamlyn, thank you so much for being here. I'd like to ask you one final question, if I may, for our listeners, which is, if you had one piece of advice for people listening to your session today, what would that be? What would it be, as somebody who's made these changes? What would your advice be to somebody else in a similar position to where you were a year ago?
It's to take the first step. I think that sometimes that's the most daunting thing at all. I've learned again throughout this year that it's the first step is the most important. I've taken up a new hobby and started cycling, and the thought of going cycling some days is really tough. The wind is blowing. As long as I put my cycling clothes on and I get out there, I go and do it. So I think also, to quote you guys, that's JFDI. If you're feeling that way, just go and do it.
Love
If
it.
you can resonate with what I've said, and that's what you're feeling, then really just to reach out and to learn more from you guys.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, JFDI, we love that. Just frigging do it. And it's so true, because action precedes clarity, as we say. It really does. Once you start taking the steps, you can course correct. But it's half the time, isn't it? It's like you're saying, it's waking up in the morning and it's just get yourself, like me, on the yoga mat, or get yourself on the bike, and then actually you enjoy it, because you think,
Yes.
oh, I'm so glad I did this now. But it's getting ourselves there, that's difficult part. So this is about creating habits. Well, Tamlyn, thank you so much for being with us today. And I hope for those of you that are listening, I hope you guys have really walked away believing you can do the same. And I want to ask you one thing, is if you're listening, is what's the one thing that you're going to take away from what Tamlyn has shared with you today? What's the one thing you can implement into your business? And then, just as she's saying about the JFDI, when are you going to implement it? When are you going to implement it? And to support yourself on that, you could talk about why I need to implement it in my business. What's the difference it's going to make? Now, if you also want shifts in your business with less time and energy, simple systems, tactics that will grow your business, create more abundance with less stress and work, then please reach out to us. We are here to support you. So you can click on the link below this video and reach out to us, or just drop us a note at Centered Excellence and we can support you in exactly the same way. Tamlyn, thank you so much. You have been epic. We really appreciate you and your time. So thank you very much. And if you're listening, we wish you all the very best and we'll see you again soon on the next episode. Take care, everybody.